What is up, you guys? In today's video, we're going to be covering the topic of how long should it take you to build a custom table. Let's dive in. All right, welcome back to the podcast. Welcome back to the channel, and I'm super excited about today's video, and this is going to be a controversial video. When I post on social media a video or a photo of something that we built, and I say, we had 25 hours in this project, or we have 35 hours in this project, all the comments I get are, number one, hate comments. There's no way that you built that fast. Trust me, I'm a professional and I've been doing this for 5 years and there's no way that he built it this fast. There's no way you could sell and build 2 tables a week. There is a way that you could build and sell 2 tables a week. Well, there's no way that you could sell 6 tables a week. Well, we did sell 6 tables a week for a couple years, right? And we built a team to help build 6 tables a week. So I want to walk you through literally from start to finish. What does the process look like and how long does it typically take and why? So there are 8 steps of building a table. Okay, number 1 is lumber selection. I'm looking at the lumber on my lumber rack, getting my lumber laid out, and I'm gathering up a selection of what I'm going to use to build the tabletop and to build the base if it's not a metal base, if it's a wooden base. This takes about 10 to 20 minutes. Why does it take 10 to 20 minutes? Because you pull a board off and you look at it and you either like it or you don't. And you grab another one and you grab another one until you have enough boards to make your tabletop. It's not that complicated of a process. It should take you about 10 to 20 minutes, okay? Number 2 is the tabletop glue up. On average, our tabletop glue ups inside of my woodworking business took somewhere between an hour to about 2 hours to glue up a tabletop. An hour being the fastest, 2 hours being the slowest. Why? Number 1, we got our lumber pre-milled from the mill. If you are doing all of your own milling of lumber, you're not gonna be able to do it this fast. It's gonna take you an additional 2 to 3, 4 hours to mill all your lumber, make sure it's perfectly square, make sure you have perfect straight edges, and get it ready for the glue up, right? And so if we're getting it pre-milled, all I'm doing is pulling a board off, taking it to the miter saw, cutting it to length, putting my straight edge up against the table saw fence and ripping it, and then I've got a board that is ready to be glued up. And I do that with my 4, 5, 6 boards, and I'm ready to rock and roll. I'm ready to glue up my tabletop. Then once I start gluing up my tabletop, I lay it all out, I mark for dominoes or I mark for biscuits, and then I start punching biscuits. And then I got my clamps laid out, and I start with the first board. I flip it up, put glue, put dominoes or put biscuits, put my second board on. Keep doing that until I'm done with the tabletop. Lay it all down, get all my clamps on it, get clamps on the end grain, I get clamps on top, clamps on bottom, and we're looking at somewhere between an hour to 2 hours worth of labor. The other thing I'll say here at this point in the video is that if you're brand new to woodworking and you're figuring this stuff out, you can't expect to hit these timelines. This is after being a seasoned guy, having a seasoned team. These were the timelines that we were hitting. Now, that does not mean that it should take you 6 hours to do a glue up. If you have your lumber milled, if you're a newbie, you should expect to be able to have a glue up done in still about 2.5 to 3 hours, okay? So just keep these things in mind. You need to weigh your experience level. If you've looked at something 1,000 times and you're doing it, you can do it and it's mindless. You don't even have to think about it, right? But if you're learning as you're going, it's gonna take you longer, okay? So caveat there. Number 2 was tabletop glue up. Number 3 is cutting all the pieces for the base and gluing up and building the table base, which takes, on average for my team and I, about 2 to 3 hours. It just depends on the base, right? It depends on the product, depends on the nuance. If I'm having to laminate wood and clamp those things up and let it dry, it's gonna take more time. But if I already have all the pieces cut that are ready to be glued up and built, typically I can build a table base, cut all the pieces, build a table base somewhere between 2 to 3 hours. And again, it depends on the product. If I've got a monster table, it's gonna take longer. If I've got a really small table and it's really easy to work with, it's gonna take less time. But table base and glue up, you should have a glued up tabletop and a glued up table base within about 4 to 6 hours. Back when I was a one-man crew and I was building stuff by myself and I had done several products and I had gotten good at the repetition and the speed side of things, I could have a tabletop glued up and a table base built and ready and prepped to be sanded and stained by lunch. Okay, so if I started at 8 o'clock, I would have my tabletop glue up by about 9:30, and then from 9:30 to noon, I'd have my table base built, and within 4 hours, from 8 to noon, I could have a tabletop glued up in the clamps and a table base built. Now, that's only 35% of the work, right? That's only 40% of the work. It feels like you did a bunch of work because you turned nothing into something, but then the finishing process begins, okay? So, takes us to number 4, getting the tabletop out of the clamps and cutting it to length, cutting it to the correct dimensions, okay? That usually takes about an hour. You're just marking, cleaning up the edges. If you need to cut some of the width off the tabletop, you're using a track saw, something like that. So cutting tabletop to length and dimensions should take you less than an hour. You're making 2 cuts, shouldn't take you more than an hour. Number 5, wood filling and sanding the tabletop. Now, again, if you're doing all of this with just a random orbital sander, it's going to probably take you 4 to 5 hours to sand the whole tabletop. But if you get the right equipment, like a Festool 150, or you get the Bosch 6-inch turbo-driven sander, you're going to be able to sand that tabletop in about half the time. So what we would do is we would scribe the whole tabletop with a pencil, lay the pencil over on its side, scribe it, whole thing with 80 grit on the 6-inch sander, turbo mode. Then we would scribe it again, move to 120 grit, keep it on turbo mode, and sand the whole thing again. Then we would move to a random orbital sander with 120 grit. But wood filling, and again, we're wood filling all of any cracks, any knot holes, or anything like that. We're wood filling that. Now, another note here is that anytime that you introduce epoxy work into a project, it's going to prolong your time. It's going to take you longer to do epoxy work, right? Because epoxy it takes a long time to cure. So we always tried to pick really clean boards that we wouldn't have to do any epoxy work on. Because of that, we were able to get stuff done much, much faster and much more efficiently. But tabletop wood filling and sanding, if you have the right sanders, should take you somewhere between an hour and a half to 2.5 hours. Hour and a half being the fastest, 2.5 hours being the slowest. Okay, number 6 is table base wood filling and sanding. You're doing the exact same thing, but just on the table base. You're wood filling any cracks, any crevices, any knot holes, anything that needs to be wood filled, and you're sanding the entire base. Again, it's going to take you around the same time, an hour and a half to 2.5 hours. Now, we have a tabletop and a table base that's completely built, completely sanded, and prepped for finish. Now we're getting into the finishing portion of the project. Number 7 is that we're going to stain and or paint all the product. Now, one of the big things that I talk a lot about is just being mindful of the pace at which you work. A lot of guys are lollygaggers. They just lollygag through all their projects. And then they're the ones that are on my comments saying, there's no way that you could build that this fast. It's like, well, I never lollygagged, right? So if you are working quickly and with intention and with purpose, there are times in the process that you need to move slow. Like when you're doing the glue up, you need to make sure your glue up's perfect, right? You don't need to move super, super, super fast. You need to make sure that all of your joints are tight and make sure that you don't have any twisting or warping or bowing. You make sure that your clamps are on there right. There's things that you need to do to ensure that you've got a great product. When you're applying stain, I see so many guys that have like their stain can in their rag and they're like dabbing like the little itty bitty part of their stain rag and they're like putting stain on it. Dude, get the stain on there and get it off. Like, get your rag wet, stain the table, get a fresh rag, and wipe all the excess stain off and move on with your life. There's times to do things quickly, there's times to do things slowly, okay? If you're staining or painting all of the components of the product, at most it should take you about 2 hours. Now, if you are painting your table base and you are doing it by hand with a brush, stop doing that. Go get a paint sprayer and go spray your paint. Again, you have to have the right process to get things done faster and more efficiently. So staining and painting, tabletop, table base, all in, you're looking at 2 hours. And then lastly is applying your final finish. For us, we pivoted off of slow drying products to spraying lacquer. Spraying lacquer allowed us to move really, really quickly because lacquer is so fast drying. We could apply a coat and within 40 to 60 minutes, that coat is completely dry, ready to be sanded and prepped for the next coat. And so that's what we did. From the time we started spraying lacquer to the time that we put the last coat on it, we were all in for about 2.5 to 3 hours. So, based on all of these things, these 8 steps in the time that I mentioned, you should be able to build a table somewhere within the range of around 12.5 to 16 hours. Now, the one thing that I didn't talk about was dry time. We always also would do things in an order so that I would start with the tabletop getting glued up in the clamps so that by the late afternoon, I could be pulling that thing out of the clamps. Also, another thing that we always did is we always tried to have at least 2 projects going on at any one point in time, so that if there was any point in time that I was at a standstill with dry time on one project, I was able to pivot to another project instead of sitting there twiddling my thumbs. These are important just concepts to understand so that you're not ever wasting time or dry time is not bringing your production process to a complete halt. And so, again, just a couple things to emphasize. If you're a brand new beginner, you should probably allow for an additional 4 to 6 hours on a build, right? As you do it more and more, you should be getting faster. If you're not getting faster, you need to evaluate, are the processes that I'm using too slow? Am I lollygagging? What's going on? Why am I not getting any faster at getting this done? For most of you out there, you've never actually tracked how long it takes you. So you couldn't actually even know how efficient you are. That most people that join the Woodworking Business Accelerator program, that's where they're at when they join. They're like, yeah, I work on it until I get it done. That's fine, except that if you ever get to the point where you grow enough and you can hire an employee, you don't have any standard to set or expectation to set of them of what they should be getting done in the time frame that they should be getting it done, right? So with this, I'm curious to hear your feedback. I'm curious to hear what's unclear. I'm curious to hear, again, why I'm full of crap and why this doesn't make sense. Everything that I've shared with you guys is backed on 3 or 4 years worth of data. Hundreds of table sets that we've built, and the ability to refine our process and get faster and more streamlined and more efficient so that we're more profitable, so that we can spend more money in ads to acquire more customers and continue to grow the business. And so would love to hear your thoughts. If you have not subscribed yet, be sure to subscribe. Would love to connect with you. If you have comments, questions, let me know. Last thing I'll leave with you are some resources. If you're here and you're brand new, you're trying to figure some stuff out, be sure to check out my free ebook, the Handmade Business Secrets ebook. Just got to enter your first name, your email address. It's the first link in the description below, and we'll send that book to you, okay? If you're brand new and looking for a great resource to get you to consistent $5,000 to $10,000 months, be sure to check out the Handmade Hero Academy program, second link in the description below. It is the best resource that I can recommend to you. That's a low-cost investment that with the sale of one piece of furniture, one thing that's high ticket, you're going to cover that cost of what you learn inside the program. In the program, we teach you how to get better photos, better video. We show you what looks good, what doesn't, and why. We're also going to show you how to find and test products in the market before you try to scale something that's the wrong product, that's not going to scale. We're going to show you how to build your first Shopify website. We're going to show you how to run ads. It's an incredibly comprehensive program that's going to help you get started inside of your business. Lastly is the Woodworking Business Accelerator program. This is our flagship program, and right now we're running an exclusive Earn Your Money Back challenge. So if you join the program and you do what we ask you to do and do exactly what we have taught our clients to do over the last 3 years, that's generated millions of dollars in results, and you generate $5,000 in sales in your first month, we're going to give you your entire program fee back. That can be cash, or that can go as credit toward continuing to work with us in the future. When you win, we win. When we win, you win. It's a cool offer. We're excited to be rolling it out. And so with that, be sure to apply in the third link below. Love and appreciate you guys, and I'll see you guys in the next one.